yourself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the start of a new week. It is the transfer show, and I'm delighted to say, as always, I'm joined by Joe, Buramag, and I've got a special guest tonight. It's Ian Mearns. How are you, Ian?
Warm.
And you're live from Westminster.
I am, yes. I'm in my office in Westminster. And you can see I haven't got a suit on because I tell you what, it's just not suit weather at all down here. It's absolutely sweltering.
And the curtains as well. We're just discussing them before we came on. Before we came on air, mate. Fancy curtains or not?
Magnificent House of Commons curtains. That's what they are like.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, let's start. I guess not with transfers, but with the first result of the season. And cast your mind back 12 months ago. I was down at York City in similar temperatures to what we're experiencing at the moment. Actually, with John from QTech, him and I went down, sat together. Holly Blades was down there with her dad, Dave. And we were amongst a small contingent of Newcastle fans who made the journey down to watch Newcastle get beat 1-0 off the mighty York. Fast forward 12 months to the 9th of July, 2022, at Darsley Park behind closed doors. Newcastle took on Gateshead and ran out 5-1 winners. Matt Ritchie scored, Joe Linton then with a penalty, Almiron then 2 goals in 7 minutes, and Sean Longstaff rounded the scoring off. Blackett got the reply for Gateshead. The teams, which are always interesting when we look at the start of the pre-season, Dubravka, Trippier, Lascelles, Watts, Dummett, Shelvey, Anderson, Willock, Ritchie, Fraser and Wilson. They started the game. I think the opening game against Notts Forest might be slightly different to that starting lineup. And then substitutes who came on throughout the game. Well, Darlow came on for Dubravka, Kraft for Trippier, Target for Dummett, Byrne for Lascelles, Matty Longstaff for Shelby, Sean Longstaff for Anderson, Joe Linton for Willock, Murphy for Wilson, then some Maximum for Ritchie, and Almiron for Fraser. Unused subs on the day for Newcastle were Savage and Turner Cook. No bookings, no dismissals. Referee wasn't disclosed from our perspective, but always good, I guess, Joe, to get off with a win. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter whether this is just taken as a bit of a run around. It's always good to record a win, and it's a lot more than we did last season.
Absolutely, Steve, yeah. Can I just comment on Mr. Mearns' curtains? Our mum's just ordered some of them out the catalogue. They look great. Yeah,
it's probably an insurance fire, Joe. It'll be that's what it'll be like.
You're dead right, Steve. Yeah, positive result. Great to get off to a decent start. You know, it was nice there just listening to you. Something that we've touched on kind of the last couple of weeks on this show. You've just described a squad of players, and you've actually described, you know, the ability to take one off and put one on in a similar position, and we've not been in that position for a long time. So yeah, lots of positive noises. I guess it would have been nice to keep a clean sheet, but we'll let Gateshead get one, I suppose. And that's me being critical of a 5-1 win as usual. But no, I think it was good, Steve. I think what was really positive is listening to Eddie Howe. He was waxing lyrical about Miggy Almiron, kind of saying, you know, he's come back, he looks fresh, he looks sharp. It doesn't look like the summer and the internationals have affected him. So read into that what you will. Read into the fact that we've promoted some young lads and they're getting a run out while all this transfer nonsense is going on, and we're linked with, you know, another 50 players today. So yeah, long may it continue, because, you know, we need to hit the ground running. We've got some reasonable games, but we've also got some extremely tough games as well in the first kind of 6 fixtures. So, you know, the more used to winning we get, whether you're playing Gateshead or Manchester City, bring it on.
Ian, Gateshead lad, Gateshead MP. It's nice to see Gateshead get a consolation, isn't it?
Well, I thought the lad took his goal well for Gateshead, actually, you know. But I mean, you know, the level of professionalism, the difference in that pre-season friendly, I thought it was there. It was like manifest, wasn't it? You know. So therefore, from that perspective, good to see them, particularly in the second half, get a very, very professional out and doing the job and scoring some actually canny goals and all. So Mr. Penn, though.
Yeah, missed a penalty as well. Yeah, you're right. But I'd rather miss a penalty against Gateshead in a meaningless friendly than in the first game of the season, mate.
Indeed. But it's it's obviously a habit to get out of, But you kind of look at that squad and you think, well, for goodness sake, I think now that we're sort of 2 or 3 players away from being top 6, and the point is, we've never been anywhere near close to that for ages. I mean, if you'd said to me at the start of last season, how many players do you think we need to change in order to get top 6? I would have said all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No, and that's we'll laugh at that, but it's true. It's true. It's really true. It's an amazing turnaround in such a short space of time, and only just the beginning of the journey.
Thus, Spac Zarathustra, they're against the division bell. I said it would happen, right?
Okay, Ian's got to depart. He'll be back in about five minutes after he's done a bit of a vote. I'll take him out of the chat for now, which I think this is a good time, Joe, for you to explain the NUFC Matters Super League before we get into the serious talk of transfers. Now, we launched this last night, NUFC Matters Super 6 Score Predictor. Join the Matters gang, entering into our own Super League. £10 per entry for the season. Cash prize winner every month. Exclusive Manager of the Month t-shirt. Cash prize for overall season winner. Trophy and Manager of the Year t-shirt. Sign up now. NUFCmatters.com. You and John from Q Tech have been sorting this out. Tell us more.
Well, for starters, it was all my idea. Don't be giving him any credit.
Yeah. It was.
No, Steve, I tell you what, I absolutely can't wait for this. Obviously, one of the things through, doing the Toon Tipster and that was the amount of interest that you get when people are thinking about what will the scores be, and Keith's there with his Mystic Mag and you guys are all, and Mitch with his dice and Stewie Penman with his 3 1s. So we were just thinking, look, why don't we create a bit of interest this season? And one of the ways that we've thought of doing that is through the Sky Sports app, the Super 6 app, or the website for those who don't have smartphones. And essentially, the idea is quite a simple one. Every week, if not twice a week, because they do midweek fixtures, Sky ask you to predict 6 scores from the Premier League. Sometimes they go into the Football League. Sometimes they do Champions League fixtures. And the idea is you put your scores in, you press go, and hopefully you get as many points as you can. And it's been really great, Steve, from John and I talking about it yesterday, to floating the idea last night, to the amount of crack that's been on Twitter already about it. It's getting really competitive already. There's a couple of mind games going on and a couple of shenanigans. And the idea is something for us all as NUFC Matters family to kind of get involved in and a bit of interest. Yes, there'll be cash prizes. Everything that comes in will be going out. John's promised us some nice t-shirts for Manager of the Month and a special one if you manage to win it at the end. Obviously, the Sky app is completely free to download. The Super 6 app, it's completely free to join. You just need to kind of log in and get your account. And once the £10 is paid, what John and I will do once the Sky app is up and running, at the moment it's down for maintenance in readiness for the new season. Obviously, what we'll do is we'll forward the pin to get into the NUFC Matters League, and then we'll see how we get on. So I advise everybody to have a go. It's going to be great crack. It's going to be lots of interest over the season. And it's the opportunity to put Keith Patterson in his place and make sure we all wipe the floor with him. So what could possibly go wrong?
Fantastic. It's a great idea. Brilliant stuff. Well done to you and John for getting it up there. So anybody wants to join, NUFCmatters.com, cost you a tenner, get yourself involved. We're giving a lot more prizes to this than Sky will be giving you, unless you win, of course. But get yourself involved. Become part of the cult's Super 6 NUFC Matters Score Predictor today. Great stuff. Thanks for doing that, mate. Excellent. And Ian is back. He has cast his vote, which will be between him and the ballot box. Fantastic. Good. So, and you actually must have put a sprint in there, Ian.
I ran along to the lift, straight down to the lobby, in and out. But the thing is, unfortunately, Steve, I'm afraid to say I've just been informed there's another 2 votes straight away. So I'll get about 10 minutes and there'll be another one. And I'll be back and there'll be another 10 minutes and then another one.
No problem, mate. No problem. Okay, well, let's get started. And I think what I'd like to do is start with Paqueta, because it's certainly the talking point of the moment. It's Newcastle or Arsenal who are now, potentially both interested in signing Paqueta. Joe, do you think we'll have the upper hand with him being such good friends with Bruno, who, of course, is already playing well in black and white?
I would hope so, Steve. I mean, it's really interesting. Last week and the week before, we were talking about nothing but Diaby, and this was kind of on the back burner, and it wasn't really something that, we were led to believe was particularly close. And then all of a sudden, over the last 3 to 5 days, it's gone absolutely boom. There's actually reports, if you listen, I don't know whether it's a bit of shenanigans, but there's reports coming out of Lyon to say that there's actually bids. Obviously, those clubs haven't been named. And I think if this guy's available, Steve, I've said all along, whether we think we should be signing him, whether it's a priority signing, if he's available, we go for it. And do you know what? Whether he's Bruno's mate or not, if you watch some of the footage of these two playing together, they talk about almost this bloody telepathy that they've got going on. Whether he's his mate or not, to think that they would be complementing each other in the centre of the midfield will be absolutely kind of mesmerising to watch if they're as good as they appear to be on YouTube. So yeah, why not? We've got some history with beating Arsenal to canny midfielders, haven't we? And yeah, this would be a real statement of intent. We talk a lot about Diaby being a potential kind of transfer record breaker. But this lad, in terms of absolute class in the centre of the midfield, would be an absolute dream signing if he's going to play alongside Joe Linton and Bruno. So, yeah, why not? Why not buy the full Brazil team while we're at it? Let's do it.
I think, Ian, I mean, Paqueta would be a marquee signing for me. There's no question of that.
Absolutely. And I think the point is, from my perspective, is, whether a player of that nature was our priority or not. If we've got the funds available, which we quite clearly have, and a player of that nature becomes available, it would be kind of like foolish not to go and get a player of that quality, particularly if he wants to come. Now, I think whether he wants to come or not is another matter, because I'm afraid to say the pariah, from my perspective, is always the agents. It's the advice that they give to players, which is usually not based on the players' interest, but their own financial interest as agents. And I'm afraid to say I have not got an awful lot of time for that particular class of being when it comes to football, because they just do seem to suck money out of the game. It's fans' money, it's sponsors' money, but also it's clubs' money. And I would like to see something done about that, and that hopefully. If and when the regulation bill sees the light of day, that might have something to do with what happens regarding the agents in the game in this country. Maybe we can set an example internationally on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, this transfer window anyway, Joe, because from our perspective, we're actually involved in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Steve. Isn't it nice that we're talking about someone like Paqueta, someone like Diaby, for example, and God knows whoever else we've got lined up. It's absolutely class. I said it last week. What a time to be a fan. Absolutely fabulous. And yeah, if we have to stretch kind of the transfer plans, if we have to change it slightly, these lads come up once in a blue moon. And if we want to progress and we want to push on, let's do it. Quite what that would mean if he's not in the original transfer plans, what that would mean for John Joe Shelby, Joe Willock, for example, that would remain to be seen. But I think if he's there, let's buy him, man. Let's do it.
I mean, if you want a clean shot to win the argument, you should show him the video of the game against Arsenal at the end of the season, because I tell you, the best side was there, like.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Another guy who's come up on the radar is Maxwell Cornet, Joe, from Burnley. Now, I saw the guy play in the last game of the season. He's not a bad turn, to be fair. There's a tenuous link at the moment with him. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw that, Steve. Yeah, interesting one. Again, would he have been someone that would have been on our list of priorities, or as Ian said, is this an agent kind of touting people around? he looks like a reasonable player. I think we've all acknowledged that he was playing in a pretty bad Burnley side that ended up going down. I was looking at his goal scoring record. Ivory Coast international, 6 in 29 for them, and he scored 9 in 26 for Burnley last season. 9 goals for a relegated side. Didn't play a full season. Not bad, I suppose. Would that improve with better players around him and better service to him? Arguably. But would players like this get in our starting lineup? I think not. I think if you were given the opportunity of a fit Callum Wilson or someone like Cornet gets nowhere near the starting 11, does he? So, we will we'll wait and see. Not for me.
All I would say is he going to improve the squad? Possibly, but is he a starter? I agree with Joe. I'm not convinced he would be in our starting lineup. Is he better than all the first 11 that we have at the moment? He would be cover. That's all I think he would be from our perspective.
Yeah, I think most of us agree on that. Again, it's an option, but a lot of these names that are getting thrown about and thrown into the mix are ones which, are press-led. Then there's no substance to them at all. Another one who we mentioned last night to Ben Jacobs was this young man, of course, Watford player Emmanuel Dennis, another relegated player, of course, and another player that has had a tenuous link. Joe, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I actually, I've seen a little bit more of this lad, Steve, than I have of Cornet, and I think there's a player in here somewhere. He's very direct, very pacey. I like the fact that, although unfortunately for them, it possibly didn't take much towards the end of the season, but whenever Dennis was on the ball or whenever he came on the pitch, kind of Vicarage Road got that lift. Again, though, in terms of prolific goal scoring, he scored 10 goals last season in a struggling Watford side. So double figures in a relegated Premier League team, reasonable. Nigerian international. So yeah, but again, Steve, exactly like Ian's just said, Ian's hit the nail on the head. Does he make the squad better? Yes. Does he get a game? No. And the interesting thing about being linked with these ilk of strikers, of course, is we're led to believe in my local press, certainly today, that Dwight Gale's been priced out of a potential move to Middlesbrough because of personal terms and his wages. So it's all right us being linked with all these kind of fringy centre forwards, if I'm allowed to call them that. We've still got Dwight Gale sitting on the wage bill, so we might need to see a bit of movement out first before we think about getting players like this in.
Yeah. Go on, Ian. Look, the paper report that came out, it was suggesting that Watford were offering Dennis to Newcastle rather than Newcastle chasing Dennis.
Yeah, and of course, I would have thought with their drop down into the EFL, I know that they get the parachute payments. They'll be a club desperate for money because they've still got an awful lot of players on Premiership wages.
Yeah. That's the big thing, isn't it? It's whether these players would make the team for starters, and whether they would improve the squad or the team, and that's it. The link for Cornet, says David Cook, comes from his people and not us, and there's a lot of that. That is what we try to separate the wheat from the chaff when we do these kind of programs. It has to be honest. Barry chucks this one in. What's the truth on Manquillo now seeing he's injured? Yeah, there's been a lot of head scratching over Manquillo. Joe, have you read anything over the last few days to suggest that there's another issue?
No, not particularly, Steve. Although, again, thinking about, the pre-season's clearly started now. The lads have been off to Austria. I notice it's interesting that when you read about teams and their pre-seasons, Borgia for Chelsea's a prime example. He wasn't on the plane. He hasn't gone away with them. All of a sudden we hear that Manquillo hasn't travelled with us. Does that imminently mean that there's a transfer away? We've talked about the defence. We've talked about the fact that we've got cover. Kieran Trippier hopefully will stay in that side all season. A very able, much improved Emil Kraft will fill in for him. Does Manquillo get a game? And I quite like the lad, Steve, but if there's a move away from him and certainly a move back to Spain, I'm sure that's where he's going. So I think he'll be on that list for me of if we need to get rid of 4, 5, 6 players out of that squad, he'll be one of them.
I'm afraid to say I'm just being relegated. I'm off to Division 2, okay?
All right, mate, you're off to vote again.
This is
See you
the worst
shortly.
game of this is the worst game of the Krypton Factor I've ever seen.
Does Cornet wear the number 99, says Gary. Very funny, very funny. Julie made a bit flaky. Julie made a good point as well. Good evening, Julie. She says, I've said it before, but agents need to be regulated by the football authorities. As we all know, though, they're not the ones for transparency. You are right there. Tony, great question. Can you do us a favour? Pop on Wednesday and ask him yourself. Wednesday night is when Stu's on. I'll completely forget because I'm at that age now where I've got short-term memory loss. So I will definitely forget that. But I would say no. But you never know. You never know. It's not a question I've ever asked him, to be perfectly honest. Barry, I will do you the honour of this one. Who the hell is Arno Calamuendo? And even better, hear Steve pronounce it. Come on, Joe. What do you know about this PSG star? And I thought I did pretty well there pronouncing that name.
I thought it was fantastic, Steve. What's he called?
Arno Calamuendo.
Get in. So, Calamuendo, to answer Barry's question, I can't believe I can say that and not Hugo. I don't know. But anyway, this lad's, I don't know a great deal about him, to be honest, Barry. I think one of the interesting things with this, though, is when I saw that we were linked with him, done a little bit of digging. Apparently, he's been on loan to Lens from PSG for the past 2 seasons. So, you'd like to think, do you know what then? PSG might fancy him. They might want to bring him back. You know, he might be worth looking at. And then we get led to believe that they're linked with Ekatike. So what does that say about this lad? Is he going to be second, third, fourth choice? Allegedly, Leeds United are sniffing around him. And if you believe what you read, Leeds have offered between 12 and 15 million pounds for him, and it's been rejected. So potentially on people's radars. I don't know a massive amount about Lens or a massive amount about French football, if I'm being brutally honest. So, you know, we shall see. But yet again, another name. So that's Cornet, and Dennis, and now this lad. It was Ekatike last week, and God knows who it'll be next week. So we'll see.
Just one Cornetto. Somebody suggested as the song for Cornet. It'd be Saints. Yeah, good one. Good one. Mark Wilson says, based on Eddie's signings so far, do you think he'd sign a maverick type of player? Character and leadership seem to be the order of the day. Great question. Considering ASM's going nowhere, I would say. We've already got one maverick in the team. We don't need another one, I don't think. But Mark Wilson's question, Joe, your views on that?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful point, Steve, and we've talked about this, one of the interesting things, Mark, is, Eddie Howe talks a lot about that dressing room, cohesion, team spirit, collectedness, togetherness. And would you risk all that if someone said, you can sign Neymar tomorrow or, Ronaldo or someone of that ilk? I'm not sure. And I talked about it, I think, the first show that we did. It's that thing about the ambition of PIF and wanting to be the biggest and the best and the shiniest and, and all the press that a huge signing would bring to us, twinned with everything I've just described about what Eddie Howe's trying to do. So I don't know. Would you cut your nose off to spite your face? Do we need to upset the apple cart if this is a work in progress and a 3 to 5 year plan? We don't need to be, throwing a lot of kind of mercenaries into that dressing room yet. I don't think. We'll wait till we're an established Champions League side, and Mourinho's the manager to start doing that.
Big shout out to Johnny V, who's Alex in a field in Cornwall. He says he's melting today. Gary, thank you very much for the donation, mate. He says, good evening, lads. Would you think that Bruno has something to do with it, giving the edge over another club by talking to Lucas and showing him around Newcastle? Yeah, I mean, that looks more and more promising as this progresses now that he's available, doesn't it, Joe? That potentially Bruno could play a big part in persuading his fellow countrymen to come to Newcastle and Joe Linton.
Absolutely, mate. And I look at the reception that Bruno got or gets and will get next season. Not many players get their own flag from War Flags after 2 minutes. So I think surely all he's got to say to him is, wow, you've never experienced anything like it. You come here and do a bit, and we'll absolutely take this football club by storm. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it'll need much selling, Steve, to be honest. And I'm sure that the Paqueta's watched his mate and seen us on Sky France or whatever it is and thought, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. So, yeah, and it's nice, isn't it, to think, we hear a lot about players coming over from foreign countries and, or certainly South American players. Would they fit in? Here he is. Have you decided what you're having for your tea yet, Ian? Is that what the vote is? I'm sure.
Well,
I'm sure. Steve,
honestly, Joe, believe it, that's what the vote was about.
Brilliant. Plenty of ice cream jokes coming in. In fact, there's a doubler here. Gary Milligan says Cornet wouldn't command a hefty signing on fee, only cost hundreds and thousands. And Stu Penman got in with that one as well. No need for all these Cornet jokes. There's hundreds and thousands of them. So thanks everybody for chucking those ones into the mix.
Well, the one thing, I think it would be something 99, wouldn't it? It would be like,
yes,
it would be something 99, so
it would be, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about outs. We haven't really talked a lot about people going out of the club, and confirmation this week that Kieran Clark is on his way, albeit a season-long loan. Thoughts on that, Joe? Disappointed to see Clark go, or was it just to be expected?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's a really lovely guy, Steve, and I'm sure he's good to have around the club. But in terms of quality, we've signed Sven Botman. I honestly don't think Kieran Clark gets anywhere near the first team, Steve. So absolutely to be expected. I think, if you talk about that list of outgoings, Clark would probably be somewhere right near the top. And so be it. It's a loan. These things, once they go, they go. He won't be coming back, will he? Let's be honest, if he gets a full season at somewhere like Sheffield United. And you know what? I think that's a good move. I think it's a good move for the club. I think it's a good move for the player. I'm sure he'll do extremely well. He'll be solid enough in the Championship and do a great job for them. So fair play to you, Clarky, and good luck is kind of what I'd say to him.
I mean, from my perspective, Steve, you've got Botman and Byrne, you've got Lascelles, Shaw, and Fernandez, and Dummett can play centre half. And I would say, from my perspective, probably Kieran Clark's, behind them all. So he's not going to get any first team games, unless we have some sort of absolutely catastrophic injury crisis. But he wouldn't be in the 25, would he?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And he's got a good move. By the time this season finishes, his contract will be up. He'll be looking for a new club. And one would imagine, Joe, that they will be trying to offload a few other players in the same light. And I mean, your mind, probably casts towards Dwight Gale, who they seem to be actively trying to get rid of. A lot harder than the previous owner, offering him a 3-year contract. But yeah, I mean, the likes of him, Hendrick, of course, another one who you would probably expect to go over the course of the next few weeks.
Yeah, definitely, Steve. Et al. As well. There's more than that, Steve. If you look around that squad, we've signed Nick Pope. Do you put Carl Darlow in there? We talked about Manquillo. There will be players in and around the squad, Steve. But certainly, I think in terms of high earners, we all know it's well documented that Dwight Gale doesn't play for us for nothing. And I'm sure Jeff Hendrick's probably on a good screw as well. A player that just completely flattered to deceive. I mean, I remember his debut. He pinged one in the top corner against West Ham, and you're thinking, bloody hell, we've signed a new Gaza. He was more like Gary Wilmot, wasn't he? He was absolutely crap. I think, again, Steve, they'll go with our blessing, but they absolutely will not be missed and would be nowhere near that squad come the start of the season.
Yeah, Ian, your thoughts on the two people who essentially we just never seem to be able to get rid of, Dwight Gale being the main culprit.
Well, I mean, I regard the new contracts that like the likes of Dwight Gale were given by the previous administration as just kind of a spiteful inheritance to the new setup. We all knew, sadly, that Dwight Gale wasn't cutting the mustard in the Premier League. He wasn't getting a start, even when Chris Wood wasn't playing very, very well at all. And from that perspective, I think we've known for years that he's a good quality Championship striker, and that's his level.
Just want to say a big thank you to George Hayes, who has popped into the chat tonight. He's become a member again, which is very kind of you to do that. But he's then bought 5 memberships and gifted them to people in the chat who didn't have a membership. Wow, that's very, very kind of you, George. As always, mate, big supporter of the Food Bank T-shirts as well that we do, which is very much appreciated, mate. So thank you very much. That wasn't him, that was Joe Linton. Okay, time to thank everybody who sponsored the programme. And as always, it's a big shout out to the lads at Spider Minor. They've been with us since the start, George and Nathan. Big thank you to them, because without them, the platform wouldn't be as good as it is. And Gareth and Nathan have been a big support. But Spider Minor essentially was Spider VPN as well, and they've been just as I say, a big support to us. So thank you for being involved. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. It's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.spidervpn.org. Just want to say thank you as well in the same vein to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Scott and the lads again. Equal level of support from them. Been very thankful of that. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245. And the Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Mr. Vickies. You can contact Mr. Vickies at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or give them a ring on 01768 210 102. And it's a big welcome to our new sponsor, and we'll have more information on them as the weeks progress. Away Day Clothing, welcome on board. They are the new sponsor for the next month, and I'm sure they will continue. So big welcome to them. And you're off again, Ian?
This is my last one for a while, so this is my last one. Then we've got some more after 10, but this is my last one for the minute. So I'll just nip down.
This is how government works in the Labour side of things, not in the Tory side of things. They'll all be down the pub. Go on, Ian. That's great stuff. Politics Live. That's what we should have renamed this one. Big thanks to Media Arts as well for all the help with the video technology. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. You can also listen to us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished on YouTube. If you want to become a member, like George, then you simply need to join. Underneath the video, you'll see join. You can do it and make a small donation. If you want to spend a bit more money, a £25 one-off fee, and get these goodies, a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to NUFCmatters.com and click membership. If you've got a smartphone, click on the QR code in front of you now, and that will take you straight to the membership pack section. If you want something for Nout, we all like that. Get your car sticker. Just simply email John at NUFCmatters.com and he will send you one out. And don't forget, we do support the Food Bank every week on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the website where you make a virtual donation to the Food Bank at the match day bucket. We've also got this ongoing raffle for the Alan Shearer ball, signed by Alan Shearer, 7th of April 2022, and tickets are $2.99, limited to 99 tickets. Get your ticket today. Our t-shirts are fairly well known now, and the Sven Botman one is available at NUFCmatters.com. Get yourself on the website, click shop. Lots and lots of goodies that you can buy on there, including this wonderful signed Alan Shearer package. It's a hand-signed t-shirt and mug gift pack from the 260 dinner, but there are loads of goodies online. The latest in the talk-ins at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe has been announced. You want to get yourself onto their website, Tynemouth Surf Cafe's website. It's an evening with Frank Clark and Gibbo, Thursday, 1st of December, 2022. That's this year, so get yourself, if you want a pre-Christmas night out, get yourself onto the Tynemouth Surf Cafe website, and they will tell you how you can buy tickets, but there's only 35, so don't miss out on that. And as we already mentioned earlier on, the Super Score Predictor is up on the website as well, nufcmatters.com. Get yourself online and register, and let's have a bit of fun this season. A couple more shout-outs for this one as well. The Summer Rumble Pro Boxing Show takes place this Sunday. 50 quid a ticket for 12 professional boxing fights. The Summer Rumble, promoted by Phil Jeffries in association with Matty Jobs. Get yourself down to the Stadium of Light this weekend. It's a great show. I've promoted it. I've put boxes on it, and now I'm going as a supporter and a manager again. So get yourself down there on Sunday. It should be a cracking afternoon of boxing. And don't forget the Food Bank T-shirt. This week is up for grabs. I think it was at 50 quid so far. If you go to me Twitter at Steve Wraith, place a bid underneath the pinned tweet, and we will be announcing the winner of that on the Three Amigos on Friday. Okay, Andrea Bellotti, another name mentioned this week, and another one I discussed last night with Ben. Joe, I quite like the look of this kid. I think there's a bit of experience there, and I think if we were struggling and going into the end of the transfer window, still without a striker, and this guy was still potentially available, I would look at getting him in.
Yeah, decent pedigree, Steve. Obviously, he's a name that people have heard of. As you say, a bit of experience there as well. So yeah, it slightly came out of nowhere as such. I hadn't heard this name linked with us very much at all, to be honest. So I don't know, Steve. I personally, it's all gone very, very quiet at the moment, and I think we're all sitting here, aren't we, thinking, I hope that we wake up tomorrow and Paqueta and Diaby are on the way for their medicals. But if it's not, players of that ilk, it's like we keep saying, then what? Then where do we go? And signings like Bellotti would be, they'd certainly enhance the squad. Whether he'd want to come to Newcastle or what, I don't know. Rumoured to want to stay in Italy, I'm led to believe. So, yeah, certainly a good player.
Oh, but yeah, very good player. I genuinely think that this guy could do a job for us. From my perspective, I just think we need a striker, but hopefully there'll be a bigger and better name come. Another one is this guy, Asensio. What's your views on him?
Yeah, I was just looking at this guy. Steve, certainly again, talk about pedigree, over 150 games for Real Madrid. You've got to be a reasonable footballer to be able to pull that off. 28 caps for Spain, sat in Spain's midfield. Interestingly, people were talking about if we weren't going to sign Paqueta, would this be a kind of alternative? You wouldn't be adverse to signing either of them, would you? Although Paqueta's obviously the kind of the blue chip signing, if you like. I'm led to believe that there's difficulties with this lad's contract, whether that'll have a bearing on his availability or what. I don't know. So, yeah, would you sign him? Of course you would. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just genuinely feel from my perspective, again, it's another one who could enhance the team and the squad. David Zapata is another name which has been bandied around very early in the transfer. In fact, before the transfer window opened from Atalanta, and could it be available for only 15 million? Of course, it's not a name that would have the hairs on people's back of people's necks standing up. But Derek Sharp, again, I know I've seen his name in the chat a few times talking about this. Get Zapata. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, again, Steve, another quality footballer. It's interesting there. I mean, I don't know where that's how widely publicised that is, but if players like that are available for 15 million quid, why at this minute in time would we be looking at paying 70 million for someone who we can get someone doing a reasonable job for 15? So yeah, again, watch this space. Better than most of the players that we've got, I suppose. So yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, we've been talking about a few different players. Asensio is getting mentioned. Bellotti has been mentioned. Ian, I mean, the point I made about Belotti was that he's a goal scorer. And if we were getting towards the back end of the transfer window and not making progress with anybody, then and he was available, that's the kind of player I'd love to sign. Asensio, I don't know as much about him, but to be honest, I just think Newcastle will be keeping their options open if the transfer window starts to drag on, and people like Dominic Calvert-Lewin will still be on the table if they haven't signed for somebody else with Newcastle. I don't think PIF and the other directors will and Dan Ashworth will allow us to go into the season with one fully fit striker.
I suppose the counter to that, Steve, is are we going to be having a squad and a side, first 11 at the start of the season, where we would anticipate hopefully getting a lot more goals from midfield across the whole of the season? And while I agree with you that that we do need another top quality striker, there's no doubt about that. I'd also like to think that look at how many goals the Guimaraes scored. Bruno scored at the end of the season, and I think that with the increase in quality, that we could actually have a lot of games where we're getting goals from midfield to win games.
Yeah, somebody suggested, I think it's David Cook, he says the amount of running that Ian is doing tonight, sign him up for our midfield.
Well, I can think of one or two in there over the last couple of seasons. I probably would have been quicker than.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of people saying that they've read that we've now officially made a bid, which is backing up what Joe has said. Mark Wilson asks an interesting question. He says, could Miggy be the answer to the right wing situation, allowing a type of creative midfield player like Paqueta, Joe?
Yeah, Steve, there's always been a player in there, let's be honest. We've always been waiting for Miggy to kind of kick into life and be the player that we thought he was, that we were signing. Struggled a little bit, particularly in some of those dark days of Mr. Bruce, but I think the back end of last season, particularly, I mention it a lot, that goal against Crystal Palace, deserves to be talked about continuously, because from Bruno's ball to Miggy's dart inside and finish was absolutely stunning. It was a world-class goal. So, yeah, again, and isn't it interesting that we opened the show with talking about how Eddie Howe, one of the first things he talked about after that Gateshead game was Miggy Almiron, and his fitness and his sharpness and his ability, his willingness to run with the ball and make decent decisions. If that continues throughout the summer against, obviously we'll be playing against stronger and professional outfits as such, would you put him in there? Would you play him? All of a sudden, is Diaby on that right-hand side or Paqueta, if you're changing the formation and putting a number 10 in there? All of a sudden, have we got someone who can do the job? We talked about this with the strikers. If you've got a fully fit all-fire and Callum Wilson, you do not need to go out and buy another top-class centre-forward, because we've got one. So it'll be interesting, Steve. I just wonder, though, in terms of kind of enhancing the squad and enhancing the profile of the football club, would that play a part in, if Diaby becomes available, no matter how good Miggy is and no matter how much he runs around and no matter how much he's improved lately, do you still sign Diaby? And I guess that's a decision for the Dan Ashworths of this world. So listen, I love the lad. I know a lot of people kind of get a bit frustrated with him. And one lad who I sit next to in the ground made a great comment, and he said if we wanted someone to run around, we should just sign Mo Farah or Ian Mearns after tonight's performance. So yeah, Miggy's there. Miggy's got the shirt. I guess, if there's any pressure on players like Miggy Almiron now to kind of suddenly step up and perform and think, dear me, this might be my last season if I don't pull my socks up. That'll only be a good thing as well. So yeah, we'll see, Steve. He's a good player. I like him. Is he as good as Diaby? Paqueta? Arguably not.
Yeah, I believe the Toon game will be shown on YouTube, says Sefton Mag. Yeah, that's correct. The games across in Austria will be shown on YouTube. And what's your thoughts on Miggy, Ian? Because he's not a bad player. I said that this season could be a big season for him. I can envisage it being a little bit like Perez when he seemed to massively improve under Rafa.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the same time, though, the money we got for Perez from Leicester was, I think, excellent business. There's no doubt about that, mate. But I think Miguel Almiron actually still got the capacity to grow with this squad. I think he could improve as the team improves, and so therefore I think he's definitely worth keeping. And he may just well be the answer, or at least a very, very good backup if we don't get another player in that position. But I wouldn't get rid of him at all. I wouldn't get rid of him at all at the moment. As I say, I think he has potential to grow with the quality of the squad.
Yeah, Steve Middlemas says, are the curtains going on expenses?
I'm afraid to say they're standard House of Commons issue, so... I honestly, mind you need them in this weather because they just reflect the heat out, because it's boiling here. Like
Simon says, he was asking about David Zapata. Me and Joe have already spoken about this. What about him from Atlanta for only 15 million?
Let's have a look at him when we play them.
Yeah, good idea. See, he's on the ball, Ian. He's on the ball. Stefan Magren, sorry. Hijack Eriksen, please. He doesn't want Man U. You can feel it. I'm from Denmark. Eriksen, Belotti, both on free transfer. Come on, Dan Ashworth. I can't see that happening, but it's a nice dream, isn't it, Joe? I think I get the impression Eriksen will go to Manchester United, but you never know. I mean, we're hearing today that their new boss doesn't want Ronaldo to leave.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. He's the cash cow, Steve, isn't he? I don't think any football club would want that fella to leave, would they? So... But listen, Eriksen, what more can we talk about, in terms of this lad? He's absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I think he's gone to Manchester United. They're probably just finishing up whatever it is that needs to be finished up. So, yeah, I think one we certainly missed out on there. But good luck to him. I hope he's crap.
Mark Wilson says, go on, Ian.
I just think the other thing from my perspective is, we've been through so many damn transfer windows under Ashley and Bruce and other managers where, you're sort of clinging on, hoping that we'll get something in just before the deadline. And frankly, I would love to see the majority of our business done as early in the transfer window as possible, because I really don't want to see Mr. Ashworth turn into a desperate Dan, with a few days to go before the transfer window is meant to close, and without having sort of put the dotting the I's and crossing the T's on my squad. I'd like to see as much business done early on as we possibly can, and on top of that, it gives the players more time to bed in before we're kicking the ball in earnest at the start of the season. Yeah. We've had far too many seasons where players have been coming in 3 and 4 games into the season, and it takes them another 3 or 4 games to settle in, if not more. Yeah.
I think
500 of you. Go on, Joe.
Sorry, Steve. I'm just saying we were talking about that last week, Steve and I think one of the interesting things about this transfer window is if we don't manage to get the players in and we end up in that desperation zone, what's the January window going to look like for us? People are over-egging the pudding now because they know we've got money and they know we need strikers. They're going to be sticking another 15 million on, not just 5 million in January. So I think I absolutely agree with you, Ian, that the sooner the better for me. And listen, let's get Diaby, Paqueta and Neymar tomorrow and say, right, we're done. We forget about the transfer window now.
Yeah. With regards to the current transfer window, do you think there's a set amount, or is it what Eddie and Dan Ashworth think is needed? Feel the consortium will want to make a serious impact soon. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I agree, Mark. I've said all along, I think there's a blue chip somewhere. There has to be. We were wondering about players like Gareth Bale, for example. Eriksen was another name. In terms of those international quality household names. Will it be Diaby? Will it be Paqueta? Will it be Neymar Jr.? I don't know. We'll have to watch this space and see. But I'm sure there is a blueprint somewhere. I mean, this is not fun. It's not Mickey Mouse football, I'm sure we have to watch what we're spending and whatever the financial fair play rulings are and all that stuff I don't quite understand. So I'm sure they said, look, let's go for, 120, 150 million. But if somebody becomes available and it's going to absolutely turn St. James's Park upside down, I think we sign him. And interestingly, I've noticed this week that Eddie Howe's apparently been on the phone to Mr. Keegan with more calls planned, and it'll be really interesting because I'm absolutely certain that what Kevin Keegan will be saying is, you sign a Les Ferdinand, you sign a David Ginola, you sign a Tino Asprilla, and this place will go absolutely bananas. So watch this space. I think something is going to happen.
What do you think about that relationship that he struck up in? It's a wise move, isn't it, to speak to KK?
Well, I mean, I think it's a wise move, but I also think it's a good public relations exercise as well, because he knows how popular Kevin Keegan is amongst the fan base. But I mean, I think when it comes to the finances as well of the club, I think as a club, you know, we are in a totally different place to where we were just sort of 18 months ago from a financial perspective. I mean, if you look at, you know, season ticket renewals, you look at memberships, you know, you look at advertising and sponsorship, and you look at commercial activity and merchandise activity. You know, given that fan base and, you know, how much interest there was in purchasing additional season tickets and purchasing memberships, you know, I think that, you know, the club can obviously see there's a massive opportunity there in terms of then turning that interest into revenue streams as well. So, you know, from that perspective, you know, all Ashley was interested was, you know, the advertising and the merchandising all went in his back pocket. The club never saw any of that. And I just think there's a massive opportunity for the club to generate cash to spend on players.
Alan says, I don't think this January window will be as bad regarding cost of players. We won't be anywhere near the relegation zone. David says, not as much about financial fair play limitations with a lack of spending in the past as keeping things balanced amongst the squad. Good point. Michael says, get KK some recognition at the ground. One thing I'd love to see off the field as soon as possible. That man saved us, and none of this would be possible without him. Jason doesn't like Mickey. He says he should be sold. I've got zero confidence in him. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. Does financial fair play even actually matter? Nobody else seems bothered about it. Good point, Ian. And I would love to see the positions in question sorted, then on deadline day, a real statement in the closing hours to shake everything up and turn heads. Senk says, what are we going to do with Chris Wood if a new striker comes in? £25 million wasted. We've heard that many times on here, Joe. I still don't see it's £25 million wasted. I think he will be a good squad player. I think he'd be happy to be part of it. And a lot of people, I think we all, you know, more or less felt that Richie would probably be on his way, but seems as if Richie may still have a future at Newcastle.
Yeah. Interesting point on Chris Wood, isn't it? I personally, Steve, I think he done the job that he was brought in for. I don't think he was brought in to score 15 goals. I think that would have been a bonus. He led the line well. He held the ball up. He was integral for that run that we had when, was it 9 unbeaten or whatever we did? And I think Chris Wood played a part in that. He was a decent foil for kind of, you know, the wingers running in behind him. Would he go? I think eventually, listen, I don't think the revolution of Newcastle United involves Chris Wood, if I'm being brutally honest. Would we let him go now? Particularly if you're led to believe that we spent 25 million on him and allegedly that he's one of the higher wage earners at the club. Would it make savvy business sense to now sell him for 10 million? And you know, I don't think so. All squads, all of the top teams, you know, you go through the kind of top 6 of the Premier League. They've got they're falling over each other for strikers. So yes, in terms of quality, he might not be the most fashionable. He certainly might not be the guy who's going to score us 25 goals. But I think if Callum Wilson stays and we bring another striker in, I think Chris Wood's arguably your third one. And then you're looking at kind of your youngsters and your academy players and, you know, ASM going up front and every other combination that we can do. So I think he'll stay. You know, we'll get another season out of him. Maybe we'll be talking about it next summer when he goes somewhere else.
Lots of love for Wood in the chat. Ian, are you a Wood fan?
I'm not massively, but I take on board what Joe said about him holding the ball up, and I think his role might well be is if we've got a 2-0 lead with 20 minutes to go, he'll come on and, you know, be one of them players that, you know, defends from the front and stops us conceding, you know.
Alexander Isaac, it's another name we've discussed on here before, Joe. KSA wants to know thoughts on Alexander Isaac.
Yeah, this is the lad from Sociedad, and interestingly, my theory comes back into play because I'm led to believe he's 6'4". So there goes me kind of big, massive giant theory back online. 32 goals in 103 games for Sociedad. He's 22. He's a Swedish international. Apparently, he scored 9 times for his country as well. So obviously, there's a player in there somewhere. But
that's what could said about Andreas Andersen.
Or Givash, he's the next Givash. But yeah, interestingly, with this lad Steve, what could go wrong with a young 22-year-old 6-foot striker? We'll see. I think Hugo's kind of steering me away from these lads.
Aye.
Yeah, Ian, thoughts on bringing in somebody like that?
Well, look, I mean, I think that if we can get somebody interested who's a known goal scorer, get them in. But look, I just hope that Wilson is going to be fit for most of the season, because we've really missed him when he wasn't playing. And I just hope that there may be a psychological thing there. He'll want to stay and play in a winning team, and that's what we need to be, a winning team from the outset at the start of the season. And by the way, I know what I was saying earlier on about trying to get as much business done as we possibly can before the window is shut. But I mean, the window is shut about sort of a month after the start of the season. If we get a good start of the season, you might have players thinking, "Oh, I want to go in there," particularly when there's some televised games and they say what the atmosphere and the grounds like. If we can get a cracking result and a great atmosphere, which we will have anyway against Nottingham Forest, it might just start turning some heads.
Jack Wilshere's been announced as under-18s coach at Arsenal. So Matt Ritchie, a lot of people suggesting he could go onto the coaching staff. He's got a good relationship with the manager, with the gaffer. So that's a possibility. We'll finish up with this, lads. Give Elliot Anderson a chance over the friendlies, says Tim Cairns. And, we are chasing Anthony Gordon, who, is part of the worst-dressed footballers union, of course, judging by that. Yeah, wow, dear me, yo.
But Balding wig on or something?
He's been compared to Claire Bolden as well. Yeah, dear me, yo, the kid needs a good pair of Geordie jeans and a couple of slops down that top. But joking aside, look, we're chasing somebody like Anthony Gordon, who's work in progress. Elliot Anderson is on our books. Should we be giving him a chance, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Yeah, talked about him last week. Whether that's us giving him a chance, in and around the first team in Newcastle, or whether we actually get him back out on loan, but maybe into the top 12 of the Championship, top 10 of the Championship, and really see what he can do. But listen, this lad is surrounded by superlatives. Apparently he's good on the ball. Everybody thinks the world of him. He had a fantastic loan season. And it'd be nice to have one of our own in and around the side, wouldn't it? So I'm a little bit torn, Steve. I think I said last week that I'd probably prefer one more season out on loan and really look after this lad and do it properly. But I agree. It's like I said earlier, if he's in the ilk of the likes of Anthony Gordon, for example, and doesn't come to work dressed in his pajamas like that lad, why would we be spending kind of 30 million if we've got one there ready to go? But again, it all ties in, doesn't it? It's Steve Harper's job, the job of the academy, the role of Dan Ashworth to be linking kind of the first team and these young lads together. So if you're good enough, you're old enough. So why not? The friendlies are a perfect example to kind of see your son, there's the ball, go and show everyone what you can do.
Well, particularly when you've got two friendlies, within 24 hours of each other, you're going to be looking at trying to use something like a 40-man squad over those two games, I would guess. And I think, one of the attractiveness of what's currently happening as well, Steve and Joe, is if they're trying to build the lower tiers of the overall development squads, and because it must be soul destroying, having basically one or two good players in those development squads sprinkled with some guys who are frankly never going to make it. So they're starting to bring in players in those age groups to try and have a development squad which is really going to be something for the future, and therefore building from the bottom up. So while we're trying to bring in players for the first team now, absolutely, but we've got to be thinking about 3 and 5 years time as well.
Just Just finishing off, Durham Gala was back for the first time in a couple of years due to COVID, Ian, and this man, Mick Lynch, made a bit of an impression down there. Good day out, mate.
Well, I was sitting behind him, you know, on that platform, mate, and I have to say, I actually had the privilege of speaking at the RMT's annual conference in Birmingham last Monday, and I think Mick Lynch is actually a very, very incisive, intelligent man. And I think that he's been a classic example of a trade unionist, just laying it out there for the public to listen to the arguments, you know. And when he's been had a go at by Tory MPs on telly and the punditry and the newscasters, he's largely, from my perspective, put them in their place with the facts. So therefore, you know, a good example. And look, let's not forget, by the way, that the guy's the general secretary of a union whose union members in those areas have given him an overwhelming mandate to take action to defend their jobs and to defend their standards of living. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with workers defending themselves, from my perspective.
No, definitely not. Be interested to see if he ever moves into the world of politics, like, because I think he'd get a few votes. But
I think he's a bit disinterested in that at the moment, because I don't think he trusts the other people currently in the world of politics.
Yeah, I think he wants to get the job done first that he set out to achieve, and good luck to him on that. Okay, great stuff as always. That hour always passes too quickly. I'm back at 6 o'clock tomorrow night with Ross Gregory. Don't forget, a little bit later in the week as well, Liam Kennedy is back, giving us a live show from Austria. So looking forward to seeing him on the show. But it's thank you to Borough Mag, Joe Walker, and thanks to Ian Mearns, MP, and he's still in efforts going backwards and forwards to keep in on the show. Take care, lads. See you later.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye.